Hello, and welcome to Lesson 5.1, Writing Equations in Slope-Intercept Form. Our objective for today is that I can write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form given the slope and 1 point, and I can write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form given 2 points. So our first example is going to be looking at writing an equation given the slope and 1 point. We want to know what is the equation of the line with a slope of -4 and the point 2, -10. Well, we're going to start off with what is our slope-intercept form again? It's y equals mx plus b. And let's take a look at our equation. Are there pieces of information that I already know? Well, I know the slope is going to be -4, and that's going to be my m. I also know an ordered pair, 2, -10, and that is going to be my y and my x value. And then I'm going to be solving for my b value. So let's go ahead and substitute that in. My y value is going to be -10, and that's going to be equal to my m value, my slope, which is -4, times my x value, times 2, and we're adding b to that. Now, my first step is going to be multiply -4 times 2, and so I get -10 is equal to -8 plus b. And my last step is going to be to add 8 to both sides, and I'm going to get -2 is equal to, we'll clean that up a little bit, -2 is equal to b. So now we need to go back to the beginning, and it said, what is the equation of the line? So the full equation is y is equal to -4x minus 2. All right. Let's look at letter B here. Letter B, what is the equation of a line with a slope of 1/3 and the point -6,4? So again, let's start off with y equals mx plus b, and we want to figure out what do we know already. Our slope is 1/3. That's going to go in for m. And we know our ordered pair is -6,4. That's going to go in for x and for y. So if we substitute these pieces in, 4 goes in for y, and we're equal to our slope, 1/3, times our x value, which is -6, and then we're adding b to it because we're trying to find what b is. My first step is going to be to multiply 1/3 times -6, so 1 times -6 is -6, divided by 3 is -2, and that's still plus b. And then our final step is to add 2 to both sides of my equation, and I get that 6 is equal to b. So my equation is y equals 1/3 x plus 6. All right, let's take a look at letter C. Letter C is a little bit more like what we've done in the past couple of days. In 2006, the average ticket price for an NFL game was $62.38. Since then, the cost has increased an average of $2.54 per season. Write an equation that represents the cost C of an NFL ticket Y years after 2006. So, in this case, though, we're starting off with the fact that we've got a couple different things going on here. Well, first, we've got our increasing ticket price is $2.54. Our starting amount was $62.38, but we also have two new things that are thrown in here. We have the cost being defined as C, and we have Y being the number of years after 2006. So in this one, we're not using the same variables. We're using something different. We're not using a standard X and Y, X being independent, Y being dependent. We're using Y to represent years and C to represent the cost. The amount of years is still going to be our independent variable. That's the amount that we can control. When do we stop measuring? How long after 2006 do we start measuring? And so our C value is our dependent. So C replaces Y. So C is going to be equal to our slope 2.54, and that's going to be times our x value, which is y, in this case, y, our independent variable. And then we're adding 62.38 because that is our starting amount of the cost of an average ticket for an NFL game. Now, questions D and E are you try problems. Do them on your own, and then come back and check your work against mine. All right, question D. Again, we originally are going to start off with y equals mx plus b. And we want to find what is my slope, what is my y-intercept. My slope is -3/4, so we have -3/4. And my point is at -8 and 6, so we have -8 as our x value, 6 as our y value, and we're adding b to that. So now we go ahead and we solve. 6 is going to be equal to -3 times -8 is positive 24. 24 divided by 4 gives us 6, and that's plus b. Our final step is going to be to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get that 0 is equal to b. So now when I write my equation, y is equal to -3/4x. And that's it. We don't need to write a plus b or plus 0 because it's just 0. It doesn't mean anything. Letter E. What is the equation of a line with a slope of 3 and it's going through the 0.75? So we're going to set that up in our equation. So first thing, our y value 5 is equal to our slope 3 times the x value 7 plus our b value. Start off by multiplying 3 times 7, which is 21. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract 21 from both sides. And we get -16 is equal to b. So my equation is y equals 3x minus 16. Now we're going to move on to the next page. We have example 2. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. And we're going to be given, Marissa is baking a recipe that calls for her to turn down the temperature on her oven for part of the baking time. Write an equation to represent the situation if the temperature in her oven drops 25 degrees Fahrenheit every 30 seconds, and after 2 minutes, the temperature is 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, our first thing we need to do here is define our variables. And I'm going to just use x and y for simplicity. X is going to be measured in, well, we're measuring it in minutes. And our y value is going to be measured in degrees Fahrenheit. So if we have y equals mx plus b, we need to figure out what is our slope and what are our ordered pair for our points. So my slope, we're told that the temperature in the oven is going to drop 25 degrees every 30 seconds. Now you'll notice that's a different unit of measurement than my x variable. And if we're working with units and we're thinking about this in terms of the units, we have our y variable is degrees Fahrenheit is equal to some kind of a rate times minutes plus degrees Fahrenheit. And so in order for that to work, we need degrees Fahrenheit per minute. Now, if we're going to do that, we need to convert that 25 degrees every 30 seconds into a rate dealing with minutes. And so 25 degrees every 30 seconds, if I bring that to a minute, we multiply it by 2, that's 50 degrees per minute. Right? We have 2 intervals of that happening. And my ordered pair, we have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes, and we have 350 degrees. So that's the values that we are going to substitute in. 350 is equal to my slope, 50, times my x value, 2, and we're adding our b value to it. And now we go ahead and we multiply, so we have 350 equals 100 plus B. And we need to make sure the fact that we are decreasing, the temperature is dropping, so it's going to be a negative 50 times 2. So that's a negative 100. And the opposite of minus 100 is to add 100 to both sides. And we get 450 is equal to B. And so when I write my equation, it's just y is equal to negative 50x plus 450. Letter B. The total monthly cost of Asia's gym membership increases by $5 per class she attends. After signing up for 4 classes 1 month, her total cost is $49.99. Which equation, or write the equation that represents Asia's total monthly cost after attending X classes. So my rate is right up here, $5 per class, and I have an ordered pair, so we have 4 classes and $49.99. So X is going to be classes, Y is going to be cost. So I'm going to substitute in the values that I know. $49.99 is equal to my rate, 5, times the number of classes, 4, plus our starting amount, B. First thing we do, we need to multiply. 5 times 4 is 20 plus B, and then we subtract 20 from both sides. So we're taking away the cost of the classes that she took to find the starting cost of the membership, which is $29.99. So her equation is y is equal to 5x plus $29.99. So her membership is $29.99 a month plus $5 times however many classes she chooses to take that month. All right, letter C and D are you try problems. Do them on your own and then check your work against mine. Letter C. The total monthly bill or cost of Javier's cable bill increases by $4.99 per movie he represents or he purchases. Write an equation to represent the situation if after watching 3 movies in a month, Javier's bill is $93.97. So we know our pieces of information, so now we're going to substitute them in, but we're going to define our variables. X equals movies, Y equals cost. So my cost, $93.97, is equal to the cost per movie, $4.99, times the number of movies that he got, 3, plus B, our unknown amount. My first step, $4.99 times 3, so we get 93.97 is equal to 14.97 plus B. My last step, subtract 14.97 from both sides, and I get a value of 79 is equal to B. So the equation is y is equal to 499x plus 79. The base price of his cable is $79, and then he will pay an additional $4.99 for every movie that he rents thereafter. Letter D, we have Kiernan, and Kiernan is a sneakerhead, and he's working at a shoe store. And he gets an increase of $12 per pair of shoes that he sells when it comes to his pay. Write an equation to represent the situation if his pay 1 week was $330 and he sold 15 pairs of shoes. Well, we have that his pay increases $12 per pair of shoes he sells, and we know that he made $330 1 week when he sold 15 pairs of shoes. So we're going to define our variables. X equals shoes. Y is equal to pay. So we set up our equation now. His pay was $330, and that was equal to the $12 he got paid times the 15 pairs of shoes that he sold, plus our starting amount, his starting salary of B. Our first step is to multiply. So 12 times 15 is going to be 180 plus B. And now we subtract 180, so we're taking away the commission from what he got paid that week to find out what his base pay was, and 150 is equal to B. So the equation, y is equal to 12x, $12 per pair of shoes times the number of shoes, plus $150, his starting salary. All right. Example 3, write an equation given 2 points. So now, instead of us being given the slope, we're going to have to remember how to calculate the slope. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So the way we do this, we do y2 minus y1. So -3 minus -2 over x2, 1 minus y1, or x1, 3. And we get -1, because minus a -2 is the same as adding 2. So we have -1 over -2, which we simplify as 1/2. That's our slope. And now I can pick one of these points. I'm going to just pick the first one, because why not? We're going to set it into our equation. So -2 is equal to 1/2 times 3 plus B. Now we're going to go ahead and do that math. We're going to do that multiplication. We have -2 is equal to 1/2 times 3 is 3/2, otherwise known as 1.5, plus B. Our final step, subtract 1.5 from both sides, and we get -3.5 is equal to B. So our equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 3.5. That's 3.5, not 35. Now, letter B, what equation represents the line that passes through 1, -6 and -310? So first, again, we need to find what our slope is. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have 10 minus -6 over -3 minus 1. 10 minus -6, that's the same as adding 6. So that's going to be 16 over -3 minus 1 is -4. A positive divided by a negative is -4. And now we can substitute that in, and we're going to use one of our 2 points, doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to select the second point this time. So we have 10 is equal to -4 times -3 plus B. And our first step is to multiply. 10 is equal to -4 times -3 is positive 12 plus B. And then we're going to subtract 12 from both sides, and we get -2 is equal to B. So my equation is y equals -4x minus 2. All right, if you flip the page, at the top of the next one is your you-try problems for this example. There are 2 of them there. Try them on your own right now, and then check your work against mine. So we're going to start off with our slope, x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to do 2 minus 8 over -3 minus 6. 2 minus 8 gives me -6. Negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9, and that's going to simplify to 2 over 3. That's my slope. Now we're going to pick one of the 2 points. I'm going to pick the first one this time. So we have 8 is equal to my slope, 2/3, times my x value, 6, plus b. So first step is to multiply. 2 times 6 is 12, divided by 3 is 4, plus b. Subtract 4 from both sides, and we get 4 is equal to b. And so when I write my equation, y is equal to 2/3 x plus 4. And that's my final answer. Letter D, what equation represents the line that passes through -1, -7, and 4, 8? We have x1, y1, x2, y2. Now we can go ahead and find our slope. So we have 8 minus -7 over 4 minus -1. Well, minus a negative in both of these instances is going to create a plus, because the opposite of subtracting an opposite is adding. So 8 plus 7 is 15, and 4 plus 1 is 5, which I reduce to a value of 3. So I'm going to pick the first point here. So we have 8 is equal to 3 times the x value of 4 plus b. First step, do the multiplication. 8 is equal to 12 plus b. And then we subtract 12 from both sides. And we get -4 is equal to b. And that means y is equal to 3x minus 4. And that's our solution. So example 4 is a word problem. Write an equation given real-world data. The number of students enrolled in public high schools in the United States has risen slightly since 2010. Write an equation that could be used to predict the number of students enrolled in public high schools if enrollment continues to grow at the same rate. Well, we're given a table, so let's look at the table and see what we can do with it. Our x values are increasing by 1 every time. Our y values, those are going up by 41 every time. So we're adding 41 for each step we have. All right. So we're adding 41 to both steps, or both sides. All right. So my slope is the change in y. Change in y over change in x. So the change in y is 41 over the change in x is 1. So it's just 41. Now we need to pick one of these values that we're going to use as our ordered pair. And I might as well just pick the first one here, 2011. So we're going to focus on the fact that we're saying these are the years after 2010. So how many years after 2010 is 2011? It's only going to be 1 year after. And as we look down, the rest of them would be 2 years after, it'd be 3 years after, it'd be 4 years after, and it'd be 5 years after. All right, so we can think of those as being years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now in year 1, we have 14,749. So we have 14,749 students is equal to our rate, 41, times our number of years that have passed, 1, and we're adding our b value. So when you do the multiplication, it seems pretty obvious. 41 times 1 is 41 plus b, and then we're going to subtract 41 from both sides, and we get 14708 is equal to b. So our equation is y equals 41x plus 14708. And that 14708 is going to represent the number of students in public high schools measured in the thousands. So you would add 3 more zeros after that, so that means there's 14.7 million students in public high schools in the United States as of 2010. All right, you're going to do letter B on your own as a you try, and then check your work against mine. We have the population of young adults aged 14 to 24 in the United States increasing during a recent decade. The table shows the number of young adults from 5 to 9 years after the beginning of the decade. Write an equation that can be used to predict the number of young adults if the population continues to grow at the same rate. So just like the last one, we can look at our table here and find our rate of change. We're adding 1 every time for our x value, and for our y value, we are adding 0.16, 0.165, thereabouts. Right, we're adding 0.165, 0.165, 0.165. All right, so now when we do the math on that, our rate y equals mx plus b, we're trying to find that slope, and so we're going to substitute in what we know. We have, I'm going to go to the max, we're going to use 47.17 is equal to our slope, 0.165, times our x value, 9, and that's going to be plus b. So now if we do the math on this, we get that 47.17 is going to be equal to 0.165 times 9 is going to be 1.485 plus b. And when we subtract 1.485 from both sides, we're going to get 45.685 is equal to b. And so my equation is y equals 0.165 x plus 45.685. And that is the end of our work for today. If you have any questions, please bring them to class tomorrow. Otherwise, have a great day.